Hello, my lovely humans. Greetings from Bolinas, California. I am coming in as a disembodied voice today because I'm here on the coast for my son's surf camp. And I had this beautiful vision of setting up a little tripod on a little corner of the beach and shooting a video for you from there. However, it is 58 degrees and foggy and windy and kind of fog raining, true to Bolinas weather in summertime. And I just thought, I think the only thing that will happen if I record from this place is that I will ruin my phone. So I decided not to do that. So instead, for those of you who are familiar with Bolinas, I am posted in front of the park outside of Smiley's Saloon. There is a young man playing guitar and busking on the bench in front of Smiley's. There's a little collective of unhoused folk hanging out in the park, having their morning coffee together. There are some cars driving by, there are some hipsters driving by, and I'm sitting in the magical mom minivan talking with you. So, true to form, I always say that there is no one more sacred place than another. We find our time to connect wherever we can, in whatever way we can. In my early days of study, I would often join in a energy work call from my bathroom because that was the only place that I could get a moment's peace without my children. So I kind of feel a little bit like that today, though. It's a little bit more charming here. But you may see, or you won't see, you'll hear cars driving by, you might hear voices. Just bear with me because I do have what feels like a pretty fun and also important message to come through. I'm going to take a sip. I'm drinking my Tulsi Rose tea, which I packed from home. Mm, And I just managed to spill all over my lap because I forgot I was drinking from the container open because it was too hot. So fortunately, it's not too hot on my lap. I've just anointed myself with Tulsi Rose, which suppose things could be worse. Anyway, you could have seen it all, but you don't get to. It'll be between me, myself, and I. All right. So without any further ado, I'm just going to remind you that this is the Sacred News and Weather. I am Dana Friedman, your host. I'm an intuitive, I'm a healer, I'm a reader of the Akashic Records. I am a mama, I am a semi-retired nurse, and I'm sitting in a minivan coming to you with this message. As usual, take what resonates, leave the rest behind. Don't try to fit yourself into a box. If this is your message, you will probably know it fairly straight away. And if not, there's plenty to choose from below and plenty more to come. So the first thing I saw, and I'm actually already getting a nudge to share something with you here. The first thing I saw in my meditation this morning for our sweet little collective was an image of a time that I spent in Alaska. When I was in my 20s, my father had just passed away and I had just broken up with a long-term boyfriend and I was a little bit lost and wanting to find myself. And so I drove my Ford Taurus up to the middle of nowhere, Alaska, and lived there for about 9 months. And one of my adventures there involved driving to the Arctic Circle. And I did it in a Ford Taurus, like you do when you're 20, and didn't give it much thought. But I did give it enough thought to know that I could make it from the second to last gas station to the very last gas station at the Arctic Circle on one tank of gas. And so I literally pulled into a gas station at the Arctic Circle in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, at probably like 3 in the morning. It was still light out. It's summer in Alaska. And I had with me Kenai, my little Alaskan Husky puppy, who I had just gotten from a local dog musher. And she was my companion. And those of you who know me probably knew her in the day. She is one of the great loves of my life. But anyway, she was just a wee little thing, and my bladder was very, very full, and her little bladder was very, very full. And it was like 3 in the morning in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, and I pulled into the gas station to fill up the tank, which was on fumes, and to pee and to let my dog pee. And I stepped out of the car and I let Kenai out, and I fortunately had her on a leash. And the next thing I knew, I looked up and there was a grizzly bear who was probably about 12 feet away, dumpster diving. And I very nearly peed myself. I'm amazed that I didn't. Um, I freaked out. I grabbed Kenai. I threw her in the car. I never emptied my bladder. The gas um, tank, I had just connected it, and I like fortunately remembered to disconnect it so that I didn't drive away with the gas hose dangling from my car. But this is the image that I was shown. I drove, by the way, there was a hostel there where the oil workers lived that you could rent a room for the night. And I hadn't even intended to rent a room. Intended to sleep in my car, but I was afraid to get out of my car because it was literally like 20 feet away, from the grizzly bear. And I like didn't know what to do. And I was kind of panicked. And so I sat there for a while and I finally got out of the car and like peed right there next to it in case I had to go back in. And I eventually worked my way inside. And when I got inside, I said to the person at the desk, "Oh my God, there is a grizzly bear right there." And he just started laughing. And he was like, "Oh, that's just old Sue. Old Sue, all she wants to do is hop onto tour buses and drink the Coca-Cola and drink the Sprite and eat all the snacks. And then she takes a shit in the aisle and she leaves. That's all she wants to do. She wants to eat and shit and leave." And this was the image that I was given this morning for our meditation. Sue the grizzly bear busting into a tour bus to eat and shit and leave. And I think there's some joke about pandas eat shoots and leaves, but so I sort of heard that as well. But I don't think that the eat shit and leave part is actually where I was meant to go, but it gave me a good laugh. And what I heard as I started to tell you the story, is that we sometimes think that messages from our guides, messages from the divine are going to descend upon us from angels and be delivered, and you will hear, "Dana, this is what you must do." And you can insert your name in there. But I just want you to know that this memory, this flashback of this time from my 20s was very much a message from my guides. And so the more you learn to get quiet and listen, the more you believe the noise in your brain is just noise. I want you to notice how you start to recognize that some of the noise in your brain is actually not noise. If you can get quiet enough and listen, some of it has real information for you. And this was the case today. So when I sat with it, I was like, okay, this is a great memory. What's here for us? What I heard was, or what I felt was that feeling that I felt in my nervous system of, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like I am in physical danger. I am going to die right now by grizzly bear. Like this was not on my agenda. I am going to die. And my nervous system kicked in, the full on cortisol rush, stress response, fight or flight. I'm out of there. Fortunately, because of that, the pee went away and I had a little time to like process before I had to get out of the car and go. And then I made my way inside and heard that story. And I think that the message here for us is sometimes when we think we're going to die, what we're going to get is really something more like eats shit and leaves. And I think that is really where we're going to go today with this message, which is the difference between what our nervous system tells us is happening, which is you're going to die, versus what's actually happening, which is this grizzly bear was not remotely interested in eating me or my dog. The only thing she wanted possibly was like if I had snacks or food in the car, she might have busted into the car for that, which I had some, but I brought them inside into the hospital and all was well in the universe. Um, but sometimes what we think is going to kill us is actually going to make us laugh once we figure out what is happening. Old Sue just wants your Coca-Cola. She just wants your Sprite. She wants your potato chips. She wants your pretzels. She wants your peanuts. And she's going to take a dump when she's done. She's going to trash the joint and leave, but she's not going to kill you. And I think that is where we are beginning today. Your nervous system thinks you're going to die, and really it's just messing with you and making a mess. And if we can remember that as we are facing our fears, as we look that grizzly bear 12 feet away in the eye and think, oh shit, we get to remember that sometimes the grizzly bear just wants your Coca-Cola and she doesn't actually want to kill you. So how does that translate in your nervous system, in our nervous system? Well, there's an invitation to remember when we are triggered, when we catch ourselves going into that fight or flight. And for some of you, I can feel, some of you in the collective, it's almost constant. Like we are in the way the world is right now. Some of us are in this continuous cortisol streak where we are seemingly perpetually in fight or flight, and or our adrenals are so burnt out that we don't even feel it anymore, and we've like ticked over to depression or malaise or like the inability to move through our day without some form of numbing. And I feel like this came through in the thread on Friday, that devil energy, that numbingness. And the good news is that's not where what I saw today. What I experienced today as I move forward with what do we do? Like, what do we do with our nervous systems who believe we're going to die when it's just kind of actually silly and we're in no real danger? What do we do? How do we get from that I'm going to die to the laughing point? We're being invited to remember even just this story of, oh shit, I'm on overdrive. My nervous system thinks I'm going to die. Where's the bear? Where's the grizzly bear who just wants the Coca-Cola? Like where is she? Because she's here. Because the reality is that most of us are not actually, and most of you listening here anyway, are not actually in any physical danger of dying today, despite what your nervous system might be telling you. That doesn't negate, I don't wish to negate the people out there for whom that is very real. But if you're tuning into my channel, the odds are pretty good that you're not going to die today. And even if your nervous system is trying to tell you that you are, there's an invitation for you to find the humor, to find the laughter, to find that moment of, oh, I'm not going to die. I'm just going to give her the potato chips. And I might like lose a door off my car or the door off the bus. That's as bad as it's going to get. That's as difficult as it's going to get for me today. And just reminding your nervous system that the cortisol rush is actually way overblown to what's actually happening for you, and to find a little bit of humor and some levity in there. Another really simple way to interrupt that cycle, and my technique is usually find the humor, but if I can't find the humor, for me it's 3 deep breaths. And we've done this before in here. 3 deep breaths. The first one really inviting all of your energy to come back into center, to come back into your belly, to come back into your heart. The second deep breath, really connecting with something bigger than yourself, whether that something bigger than yourself is what you would call God or divine or spirit, or just the highest version of yourself, the most healed version of yourself, if the idea of God makes you uncomfortable. And then that third deep breath, taking you into gratitude. So, whatever you can find gratitude for in the moment. And sometimes it's really hard to find gratitude in those moments. Sometimes it's the smallest thing, which is like, I am grateful that I remembered to take 3 deep breaths right now because I really thought I was going to die, or I really thought that I could not do this anymore. And so, finding the humor, taking those 3 deep breaths, even if you can only give yourself one big deep breath, sometimes, again, that one deep breath is enough for you to remember that you are safe, you are okay, you're not going to die, and everything is, in fact, going to be okay. So, inviting you into that energy with Sweet Sue the bear. The next place I went with this, with the imagery of the bear, I actually moved away from the imagery of the bear. Sorry, I'm getting another message here, and I'm just going to listen for a moment. Bear with me. I'm hearing the fear of getting caught, the fear of getting caught, the fear of getting caught. And I feel like I'm picking up on someone specific. I don't know that this is for everyone, but there's this feeling of like that I'm going to die feeling is the fear of getting caught in a lie or lies or untruths. And it's going back to Friday's reading of Tell the Truth, Motherfucker. It's going back there. But for some of you, there is the fear of getting caught. That is the fear that is in your nervous system right now that is keeping you in this cortisol spiral. And the image that I'm seeing right now, I'm getting a card. I have not drawn a card. I'm literally sitting in my minivan. Is the Knight of Cups, which the Knight of Cups can be an offer of love. It can be a person, but it doesn't necessarily mean like you are going to get caught by another person, though it may. The the feeling is that there's an alternative meaning for the Knight of Cups. I often see that as someone is coming forward with an apology, but you might actually be the person that needs to come forward with an apology and with a truth. Again, here's my throat chakra. Again, getting really uncomfortable. Somebody out there in my collective, somebody who's watching, either needs to admit a truth and apologize to someone, or there is a truth that is in your system that you are denying that really wants to come forward, and it wants to come forward with love. So I feel like there are myriad ways that I can interpret this Knight of Cups coming forward. But the way I see it is you either need to apologize to someone and offer up a truth, or someone needs to apologize to you to offer up a truth. But really, it feels like the underlying, regardless if it's one or the other or C, none of the above, there's an underlying vibration of really you need to offer yourself. If you are the one who owes the apology, you need to offer yourself grace and forgiveness and let yourself off first. This is what's coming. The offer of love needs to come from yourself to yourself first and foremost. That's what's happening here. That offer of love, that Knight of Cups, is from you and to you and from you. The way, if you are someone that needs to be apologized to and a truth needs to be revealed to you, and you probably already have an awareness of it. There's probably some sort of an awareness of your system of like, somebody has done me dirty and owes me an apology. There is an invitation for you to first give yourself that grace. I'm hearing Ho'opono. I can't even say it. The Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. Um, I can't even think of it. I can't even say it right now. There's my throat chakra again. Ho'oponopono, I think it is. Somebody will correct me. Um, but there's an invitation to offer yourself the grace first and to create a space of grace in your own frequency, a space of forgiveness for any of your own wrongdoings, because I can also see where you might be ruminating on what you might have done wrong to make the other person wrong you. So really, for whether you are the wrongdoer or the one who needs an apology, there's an invitation to bring love into yourself, to create a deep space of grace for you to exist in, whether that apology comes or not, whether you ever receive the apology or whether you are ever brave enough to offer up the apology, to create this space of loving grace. It doesn't mean that you need to, and forgiveness is sticky. So I'm not asking anyone to let somebody who's done you wrong off the hook. I feel like, and I'm going back to that bus, to the trashing of the joint. It doesn't mean that you need to let someone return who continuously trashes the joint. It doesn't mean that either, but it means that you're being invited to hold this space of grace so that you can be in a frequency of love, which will then invite the person who perhaps owes you an apology or owes you a truth to come forward. And or that grace, that space of love will allow you to come forward to offer up any apology and any truth that you might need to offer another. I'm going to leave that thread here. I apologize. A leaf blower or something like that has just started in the park. I don't know how much of the sound that you're hearing. I'm wearing my headset, and I'm hoping that it's enough to keep the outside sounds down. The next image that I'm seeing, and I've just gotten like a past, present, future download. So the Eight of Pentacles is coming forward, and this card for me often means like, I'm working here, I'm working, busy, busy, busy. It has a little bit of that, and it's like one step, one foot in front of the other, one step in front of the other. The feeling is that whatever that moment was that caused that disconnect between you and another person, or you and yourself, if you need to get honest with yourself, whatever disruption happened there that needs to be healed, the feeling is that you're working on it, that it is being worked on. You are working on it. Your guides are working on it. The universe is working on it. It is being worked on right now. And the feeling, I just heard God is in the dust, Alice, which is, there are very few of you who would know that reference. It is from a musical that I did when I was in college. When I was in college, I was a production theater major, and this was an original musical called Beasts and Saints, written by Dan Massey and Mindy, who has since changed her last name. I can't remember what she's calling herself now, but it was brilliant. But I just heard God is in the dust. God is in the dust, Alice. Meaning, with the way I'm hearing it now, it's meaning that like God, divinity, that grace that I talked about, that you want to be drawing to you, that bubble of grace, it is all around you. And we're being invited to infuse it. And I'm also, because this is in the past position, I'm seeing where you're already infusing just a little bit more grace, even if it's not entirely forgiveness of self, even if it's not an eradication of the shame or blame that you may hold in your body or place on another. I can see where those steady steps are being taken, and we're just being reminded to continue to take those steps toward healing. The next card that I'm seeing is the Star, so we're heading toward healing. We're probably more of you are in that place of healing than not right now. But remembering to infuse that grace into every moment of what you are doing. So I can see where there's an intentionality. I can feel the intentionality in some of you where you're like, I am actively working to heal this wound. I'm actively working to heal the disparity between us. I'm actively working at readying myself to come forward and offer an apology. I'm actively working on readying myself to receive an apology. And so I'm seeing that happening, the next right step and the next right step and the next right step. And I'm just hearing that mastery, like the idea of mastery, like the idea that you should be perfect right now is kind of insane. And it's we are humans. We are messy humans. We are also divinity. I believe we are the perfect combination of both, but there really is no perfection. And so what I'm seeing is we're being invited into a little less perfectionism and a little more grace in the process, meaning that you may, like what I'm seeing is you may have decided, I'm not going to drink alcohol for the next 30 days. And you went 6 days, and on the seventh day, you were out with friends. You're like, I don't need, all right, I'm just going to have one glass of wine. And whether you had one glass of wine or 15, it's neither here nor there. What matters is that the next day, you're not like, well, fuck it. I call this the fuck it's like when you're like on a diet and you give in and then you just give in big and you're like, well, I already had, I don't know, a giant slice of cake. So now I'm going to have the chips. Now I'm going to have this. Now I'm going to have the beer. I'm going to have all of this fuck it. I just got the fuck it's. And so rather than getting the fuck it's, we're being invited into letting our imperfection go, letting the way we missed the mark go, and know that that's part of it. That part of the healing, part of the next right step is sometimes taking a misstep. And just because you're not perfectly on track for where you would like to be, it doesn't mean that you deserve less of something. You deserve less love or more shame or less of an apology, or it just let it go and come back into the commitment to healing. Come back into, again, the card that I'm seeing, the next image that I'm seeing is the star, which I love the star. I when I see the star, it's an acknowledgement of my mantra, which is expect miracles, expect miracles, expect miracles. I try and repeat to myself 10, 15, 20 times a day, expect miracles, and believe in the highest frequency, in the highest vibration that is possible for us. And so when I see that star, when I feel that star coming forward, I'm hearing expect miracles. And I'm also seeing the healing in action. I'm seeing active healing for our collective, for our community. I'm really seeing how you are taking the messages that I've been delivering, how you're taking the work that you're doing on yourself, how you're taking and building that bubble of grace around yourself. I can see and feel the healing as active, and it's really, really beautiful. With the star also, it's like for some of you, it's that North Star. It is the place that you are going. It is the place of your soul's work. It is the place of your highest timeline right now. So that work that you're doing, that you've been doing, whether it's happening quickly or it's been the slow grind, the work that you're doing, keep going, because I can see that the healing is active, that you're actively moving into healing. And there's going to be this feeling of like a turning point, like a tip over the edge, where the what felt like the slow baby steps that you've been taking, the little incremental changes that you've been making, I can feel where it's going to go like off the ledge, and you almost might feel like you're going to like drop off, and there's that feeling of I'm going to die, but you're not going to die. You could laugh it through the bear, but I think what you're going to do is tip over into that exponential growth. So what was really slow and really gradual and sometimes messy and sometimes off the mark is suddenly going to go into this place of like rapid healing, rapid fire healing, like a huge, some people would say a timeline jump. Some people would say like a 5D expansion, like just an infinite expansion, but one that you're not just going to feel in theory, one that you are going to embody in your human form as well. So this is not just like cosmic healing. This is not just like the energy of healing, but this is healing that will be evident in your physical being. It will be evident between you and another. Again, if there was some relationship that needed to be corrected, the evidence points to huge exponential growth. And expect miracles, expect that that's possible for you. I feel like sometimes we think that healing, like we choose to heal and oh God, I'm on the healing path and it's going to take the next 40 days and 40 nights or 40 years or 100 years. It's going to be so slow and so painful. And what I'm seeing here is nope, that is not the case. And this is not going to be for everyone. And I wish it for everyone. But I need to remind you that you actually have to choose it as well. So for those of you who when you miss the mark, you go into the fuckets and you go back 30 paces instead of just a few paces, I want you to remember that you get to choose to stay out of the shame and blame spiral and go into that bubble of grace. I love you. You are perfectly imperfect. We all screw up. And I'm going to take the next right step and I'm going to get right back on the train of healing. And I expect miracles. I expect it to be easy, or actually, now I have to correct myself because I hear that. And for some of you, it does get to be easy. It gets to be far easier than anything you've ever imagined. But there's a myth out there in the coaching world, and I just want to dispel it. Not everything is easy. Healing is not always easy, and it's not because you're doing it wrong. So I guess that's the part that I need to say. Like, if you are finding it difficult, it's not because you're doing it wrong. And I get really annoyed when coaches are like, just choose, it's so easy, because usually they're speaking from a place of great privilege. And so I just want to acknowledge that privilege can often be a part of what makes things easeful. But the other side of that is like we just didn't choose to come here at this time and space on Earth for things to be easy. If we did, we would probably not be here right now. And so just bringing that forward as well, like it's we didn't come here to make everything easy, but we do get to choose to get right back into healing, and we do get to hold the frequency of I expect miracles. And things can be easy. I just don't want you to get discouraged if you're feeling like this is really hard and what is she talking about? This is not easy. So we are on a continuum. It is all things, but choose to believe that it can be easy. Choose to believe that you can expect miracles and hold the frequency of those miracles and see what comes. The last card in the image, it's funny, I thought I saw something else, but what is coming forward is the Strength card. Now, I think last week, I think on Friday, I spoke of the Temperance card as being like, people see it and they're like, oh, I'm blessed by an angel. Temperance, it's so peaceful, it's so beautiful. And I often experience the Temperance card as like, I'm alchemizing something through my system and this is really hard. And the same with the Strength card. The Strength card, strength goes where you use it. And so when I see this in the future, I am going to encourage you to hang on and be so strong in your resolve to heal, to hold that bubble of grace, to really be so like I hear the cowardly lion, courage, to have so much courage to face that which you need to face, to step more fully into your healing, to step more fully into your growth and your expansion. have the courage to do the next right thing. But like anything else, it's a continuum. And so strength, when misaligned or misused, can often mean, to me anyway, when I see it, the flip side of strength can be really like holding on to old patterns, like really getting stubborn and digging in your heels. There's, in the traditional Rider-Waite card, there's the lion on there. The image that I'm seeing, I almost always see the light seers. It's very rare that I see a different card because it's the deck that I use most frequently. In the light seers deck, there is a woman, and she is part lion and part woman, and I think she's holding a little lamb. And it's really a balance. We're being invited to be courageous, but to, in some ways, rein in our animal instinct. Now, I won't always say that, because sometimes I'm like, no, our animal instinct needs to be let out. There's a time and a place for sacred rage. There's a time and a place for like real delicious, lusty animal yumminess. But that's not what I'm getting with this card. What I'm getting with this card, with this image today, is that it's actually that like base animal frequency that might be keeping you from your healing. And so inviting you to notice where you might be digging your heels in, getting really stubborn, staying really stubborn, or also staying in those old patterns. I'm reminded again of the devil card from the last reading, like those things that bind us, the old patterns that have bound us, that fear in us, the oh shit, I'm gonna die, that keeps you reaching for the glass of wine, or keeps you reaching for whatever numbing substance you use to like cool your jets. The image can be both. And so really encouraging to use your strength for good here, for the good of your healing, for the good of your heart, for the good of your being, but also the being of your beloveds, of your community, of your family. It's much bigger. The healing work that we do on ourselves has a ripple effect out into the world, and remembering that the strength that you're being invited into is that healing strength more than anything else. I'm going to be quiet for a moment. The overall message, and it's actually a good one. I'm seeing the death card, and again, if you are someone who is familiar with tarot, you know that death, and in the light seers deck, it's death and rebirth. It is the cycle of death and rebirth. I am seeing the death card here as an ending, but I'm seeing it very much as a positive ending. If you're taking the steps, you're in your healing, you're in your strength, you're in that bubble of grace, you're going to be offering that truth to yourself, to another, receiving the truth into this bubble of grace, into this bubble of loving forgiveness of yourself, of the other. Again, not necessarily dismissing evilness done to you. Forgiveness is a little bit different in this capacity, just enough for your nervous system to let it go. We'll put it that way. Just enough forgiveness for you to not be poisoning yourself with anger or rage or shame or disappointment, whether it's from an act that you committed or a continuous way of being with yourself or the way someone else was with you. Forgiveness to that capacity. Forgiveness so that you're no longer poisoning yourself. If you can move through these images, if you can be on this path, if you can stay strong and feed yourself the nourishment of, I'm not going to die, I'm going to look, I'm going to laugh, I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to bring in that bubble of grace, the kind of transformation you are going to receive does feel like that reparation between you and another, that reparation, that healing within yourself. It feels like that bubble of grace is going to be not just a bubble around you, but one that is moving through you, that you will be able to feel, so that the next time you're faced with the grizzly bear, the next time Sue the bear comes around, your next reaction won't be, I'm going to die. It's going to be, oh, I know you. You used to make me think I'm going to die, but now I just know that you're here to wreck the joint. And knowing that you're here to wreck the joint is enough for me to walk away and walk toward greater love, forgiveness, and grace for myself, for another, for one another. And I'm going to be quiet here to see if there's anything else that wants to come through, except for the leaf blower. I hope you can't hear it, and I apologize if you do. I believe we are complete. Amazing. Thank you all so much for tuning in and staying here with me and my disembodied voice today. On Wednesday, my son will still be in surf camp, but I will be working from home, so I will come in on full video with Wednesday's message. In the meantime, I would love it if you would like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about what I'm doing to come hang out with me. You can look forward to some offers coming below. Now that my kids are getting ready to go back to school, I'm going to be moving into more full work mode. So I'm in the process of creating some programs and some one-on-one offers for you exclusively, my YouTube group, as well as my greater community beyond. So you can look for that. And I would say in the next week or so, I should have my fall offerings coming through. In the meantime, I so appreciate you coming here. Please know that the more you show up here, the more likely you are to receive a message that's for you. I am not tapping into my energy for the sake of delivering you a message about myself. I truly am tapping into the energy of this collective and feeling into what's needed for the group of people who are listening to this channel. So the more you show up, the more you arrive, the more you co-create with me the messages that I am receiving, and the more likely you are to receive one that's exactly for you. Thank you so much. I will see you out in the YouTube world, and I'll see you on Wednesday.